Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis and welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be looking at a picture that I posted up on Instagram of my dirty RO filter. It's the sediment filter, basically the very first one that has contact with my city water, and as you can see it's pretty dirty. So I did mention on that post that it was only on my system for 2 fills of my 160 gallon storage bin, meaning that it wasn't on there very long, probably 2 months, and yeah, pretty dirty. It's ridiculously dirty, up to the point I wish I had a picture of it, but only about 2 millimeters of that filter was white on the very inside of it, meaning that it got burnt up relatively quickly. So with that, you guys had a lot of comments and questions, and I kind of want to address some of them and just talk about my approach to keeping clean water even with a really dirty source of city water. Now by the way, appreciate all the feedback that you guys posted about adding water softener, adding bigger sediment filters prior to my RO unit, all that kind of stuff. Now, I've considered that stuff in the past. I just haven't really gone that route just because I'm limited on space down in the fish room. I have that little corner there that has my RODI unit, and of course that 160 gallon bin, which goes over to my 30 gallon, which I make salt water in. So it's kind of tucked in a little corner. So I don't really have a lot of room to add many more filters, if any at all. So I do appreciate that. I appreciate the support and all the recommendations. But for now, it's been about 6-7 years I've been using this. I just kind of gonna keep doing what I'm doing, and hopefully the city water gets better. I doubt it, but it's progressively gotten worse over the years, but hopefully it does get better. So with that, my approach to keeping crystal clear RODI water, zero TDS into my storage bin is, yes, I burn through a ton of sediment filters. I change them out every month, every 2 months, depending on how often my water changes are. Because I'm also filling up my Oscar tank as well as my ATO and all that kind of stuff. So it does use up quite a bit of RODI water. Now, I am changing them out 1 to every 2 months. I don't wait for it to get completely depleted. I just kind of look in there, see how much of that little white ring is left on the filter. If there's enough left to justify doing maybe another half a barrel worth of water, then I'll do that. Outside of that, I'll just switch them out. They're relatively cheap. I think I buy them in bulk. They're like maybe a couple bucks, $3 or $4 a piece. So it's not like I'm losing a ton of money, but it is just one of those things you have to change, right? So I'm changing on my sediment filter quite often. As soon as it gets depleted, done. When it comes to my GAC filter and my carbon filters, those get changed out every 4 to 6 months, regardless of how much water I've made. I don't play any games with that stuff because I've had issues in the past of chloramines and chlorine, all that kind of stuff, because eventually it does get past the carbon filter. There's only so much it's going to take out. So and yes, I've done these strips in the past. I've done the chlorine strips, which came back. I tested the same water twice. It came back positive once, came back negative on the same batch of water. So I don't really trust those, and I really haven't found a reliable method of testing that stuff. So just to kind of bypass it and not have it be a worry, I just change out my carbon blocks or carbon filters it depends, but usually every 3 to 6 months, 3 to 5 months, just depending on when I get around to buying them. But I don't let it go go past 6 months. I usually never get past 6 months on that. Now, when it comes to my RO membranes, I am using 2, I think they're 150 gallon per day. So with those, I change those out every year, usually around New Year's. I try to do it, or at least within the first month or two of the new year. And again, I just change it out once a year. Most of the time, they're still good. They're gonna be good for 2 to 3 years, but again, they're not that expensive. They're probably 25, 30 bucks a piece. And if you look at the grand scheme of what we spend on our reef tanks, who cares about $25? Just do it. Make sure you get clean water, and it's just the way it is. That's kind of my same idea and approach when it comes to sediment filters and carbon filters. They're not that expensive. Just do it, right? Now, when it comes to my DI, as you guys know, I've gone through this process before. I have 3 stages of DI. When the first ones get depleted, I take it off. I take the 3rd stage, move it to the 1st stage, put the new resin into the first one, put it in the 3rd, and I just kind of do this swapping game, and it never actually gets to the 3rd stage. I just kind of swap that stuff through, and of course, 0 TDS is the goal every single time. So that's kind of my approach to my filter system. It's really not that complicated. Yes, there's additional maintenance given that my TDS is extremely high on my city water, and that was a question that I had, is how high is the TDS? Now, the last time I checked it, and I don't have an inline one anymore, but the last time I checked it, it was like 400 and something. So, and I will say that was a couple years ago, and the pre-filter wasn't getting burned up as quickly. So I imagine it's probably a lot higher. And we take showers in this stuff, so yeah, try not to think about that, right? Anyways, if you see how we took showers in Afghanistan, you probably wouldn't care about your little 400 TDS and in your tap water from the city. But either way, yeah. I just go ahead and make sure that I use my filters for my tank. So with that being said, 300, 400 TDS is pretty average coming in, and it's really rusty. I noticed that when they're always draining the fire hydrants and doing that kind of stuff around here. They are doing construction. They're building some new townhomes out back. All this kind of stuff, I'm sure, is contributing to the dirty water. It just has to be. I mean, all that stuff is getting plumbed in. It just has to be part of it, right? So with that being said, my filter system, again, I stay on top of it as much as I possibly can. I change this stuff out because you got to think about it. Water is the lifeblood of our reef tanks, and it doesn't take much to really piss off corals, especially your SPS. So if your GAC filters and your carbon filters are completely depleted and you're just dumping chlorine and chloramines in your tank, it's not going to be too long or too many water changes or RODI or RO top-offs that it's you're going to start having some problems with polyp extension and possibly turn into RTN and STN. So with that, again, I appreciate the support when it came to recommendations for the water softener, all that kind of stuff, bigger sediment filters, all that kind of stuff. Really appreciate it. But what I'm doing now seems to work. The maintenance kind of sucks, but it is what it is, and it is just kind of part of the hobby. It is what it is. So I do recommend for those of you who are kind of getting into the hobby, if you don't have an RODI system and you think you're just going to be okay with well water or your city water, that's a huge mistake. Now, some people have gotten away with it. Just because it's, you know, some people have done it and it's okay doesn't mean you probably should. And again, we're just playing Russian roulette here. And nobody wants to just keep pulling the trigger and eventually hitting the bullet. You don't want to do that, right? So get an RODI filter, use it, check it often, change the filters as scheduled, and you should be good to go. All right, so with that, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Any questions, let me know. And if you have anything you want to add or suggestions, or if you're in the city, let me know how your filters are going, or if you're in the suburbs or wherever you're at, and you know your filter maintenance, let me know how that is. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. Peace.